Hello, welcome to OJ Studios. Please enjoy this week's short story, The Lesson, by Olivia Julius. Chapter 1, Playground Show-Off. I kicked at the gravel with my sneakers, squinting against the sun as a group of girls spun around near the monkey bars. Their arms were up over their heads like they were pretending to be ballerinas, giggling every time someone lost their balance. PFFD, I muttered loud enough for them to hear. That's not even a real sport! You just twirl around in a tutu. One of them stopped, hands on her hips. Ballet is hard. You wouldn't last 5 minutes. I grinned, loving the challenge. Oh yeah? Bet I could do anything you girls can do, and more. Boys are just stronger. We run faster, we climb higher, and we don't waste time playing dress up. The other girls gasped like I'd just insulted their whole family. That only made me puff out my chest more. You think you're better than us just 'cause you're a boy? One girl snapped. Not think, I said, leaning back against the swings. No! Before she could fire back, a sharp voice cut through the playground noise. Hector Rivera! Uh-oh! Mrs. Ramirez, the recess duty teacher, stood a few feet away, her arms crossed. She had that look, the one that meant I was in big trouble. Principal's office. Now! My stomach flipped. What? I didn't even do anything. You know exactly what you did, she said firmly. We don't put others down here, especially not like that. March! The girls were smirking as I trudged across the playground, heat crawling up the back of my neck. Every step toward the office felt heavier, like I'd just lost a game I didn't even know I was playing. And all I could think was, man, it's just ballet. Why is everyone acting like it's such a big deal? The hallway felt way too quiet after leaving the playground. My sneakers squeaked against the polished floor as Mrs. Ramirez walked me down like a police escort. I slouched into the principal's office chair, staring at the motivational poster on the wall, something about respect is earned. Yeah. Principal Lopez folded his hands on the desk, his eyebrows doing that heavy thing that made it impossible to tell if he was mad or just disappointed. So, he said slowly, Mrs. Ramirez tells me you were putting down a group of girls during recess. I shrugged. I was just telling the truth. Ballet isn't a sport. And boys can do more stuff anyway. It's just facts. His mustache twitched, like he was trying not to sigh. Hector, do you know what respect means? Yeah, I said, picking at a chip in the chair's armrest. It means you don't interrupt when teachers are talking. He gave me a look. Not the answer he wanted. Respect, he said, leaning forward, means valuing people. It means understanding that strength comes in many forms. Do you think those girls were having fun until you said what you said? I squirmed. I didn't mean it like. You meant it exactly how you said it. He tapped his pen on the desk. Words can hurt, Hector. Especially when they come from someone who wants to show off at the expense of others. I groaned. Are you gonna suspend me for saying ballet is dumb? No, he said, but his voice was firm. But I am calling your mother. That got my attention. My stomach dropped. Wait, my mom? Come on, that's not fair. She's just gonna freak out. Principal Lopez picked up the phone anyway. She deserves to know what's happening here. Maybe she can teach you a little respect where my words aren't getting through. I sank lower in the chair, the tips of my ears burning. Mom was going to kill me. As the phone rang and he explained the situation, I tried to tell myself it wasn't a big deal. So I teased some girls, what kid didn't? But a weird feeling tugged at me when I remembered their faces. The way they'd looked at me like I was the bad guy. I pushed the thought away. Whatever. It wasn't like my mom could make me respect ballet just by yelling at me. Right? Principal Lopez hung up the phone and gave me that look again, the one that said my fate was sealed. You'll wait in the reflection room until your mother arrives, he said. The what room? I asked. It's where students go to think about their choices. Translation: a boring room with no windows, a clock that ticked too loud, and one desk smack in the middle. He led me there and shut the door behind me. I slouched in the chair, arms crossed. Think about my choices. Yeah, right. I didn't need to think, I was right. Ballet wasn't a sport. It just wasn't. The clock on the wall ticked like it was laughing at me. Tick, tick, tick. After 10 minutes, I tapped my pencil against the desk. After 20, I counted the ceiling tiles. After 30, I stretched out across the chair and tried to nap. But the more time passed, the more my stomach twisted. I hated waiting. It gave my brain too much space to imagine what Mom was going to say. Would she yell? Ground me? Take my Xbox? An hour crawled by. The doorknob rattled, and I sat up fast. And there she was, Mom, framed in the doorway. She had her work clothes still on, hair tied back, and that look that could melt steel. My mouth went dry. She didn't say anything at first. Just walked in, shut the door behind her, and crossed her arms. I tried to smile. Oh! Hey, Mom! Her eyebrow arched. Never a good sign. Chapter 2, The Wish I Didn't See Coming. I thought Mom was just going to yell at me. Maybe ground me. Maybe make me write 100 "I will respect others" sentences. What I didn't expect was for the principal to poke his head back into the reflection room and say, "Why don't you girls come in?" The door opened wider, and my stomach dropped. It was them. The ballerina squad from recess. They stepped into the room like they owned it, still in their playground clothes but looking at me like I was on trial. "This is ridiculous," I muttered. "Why are they here?" Mom's eyes cut to me, sharp as glass. "Because they're the ones you disrespected, Hector. And I believe they deserve a say." One of the girls smirked. "Mrs. Rivera, can't you, turn him into a girl? Just for a while? Make him see what it's like?" My heart jumped into my throat. "Wait, what?" Another girl chimed in. "Yeah, and send him to ballet class. In a leotard and tights and everything. If he thinks it's so easy, he should prove it." The rest of them nodded, all at once, like a flock of pigeons out for revenge. I sat up straight. "Mom, no way! You wouldn't! Tell them you wouldn't!" Mom didn't answer right away. Her face stayed calm, but I knew that calm. It was the kind she got right before doing something drastic. "Maybe that's exactly what you need, mijo," she said softly. I gulped. "Okay, so here's the part you probably don't understand. My family? We're not normal. Magic runs through our blood like brown eyes and shoulder-length hair. My abuela used it. My tios and tias whisper about it. And Mom? She's the real deal. She can change things with just a word and a snap of her fingers." And I knew, sitting there in that stupid desk chair, that she was actually considering it. "Mom!" My voice cracked. "You can't be serious!" She looked me dead in the eyes. "Respect isn't just taught, Hector. Sometimes it has to be lived." And then she lifted her hand. "Mom, wait! You can't!" The word stuck in my throat. I felt it before I saw it, a ripple, like a shiver that started at the base of my neck and shot through my whole body. The air around me seemed to hum, heavy and buzzing, like the moment before a thunderstorm. My hand shot out to grab the edge of the desk. My fingers looked normal 1 second, and then slimmer the next, nails smoothing and rounding, skin softening right before my eyes. "What the?" I squeaked, but even my voice cracked higher, like it was being stretched into something lighter, sharper. Heat crawled up my arms and down my chest, my broad shoulders tingled, narrowing in, while my shirt clung tighter across my chest before puffing outward into curves that hadn't been there a second ago. My stomach flipped as my waist pinched in and my hips swelled wider against the wooden chair. "Mom! Make it stop!" My plea came out in a voice that didn't sound like mine anymore, higher, softer, almost musical. The girls were wide-eyed, but grinning like this was the best show of their lives. And then it got worse. My uniform, my boy's uniform, shuddered like the fabric itself was alive. The collar softened, my button-up shirt shrinking into a fitted blouse with puffed sleeves. My slacks itched as the seams melted away, fabric sliding upward and reforming until I was sitting there in a jumper dress, navy blue, pleated, with a neat little bib front that felt way too girly for me. My tie slithered into a ribbon, tying itself neatly at my chest. The white socks clung tighter, stretching higher into knee socks trimmed with lace. And my sneakers? They pinched and reformed until I was left with shiny black Mary Janes that clicked when I moved my feet. I looked down at myself, breath coming fast. My arms were thinner, my legs bare and smooth, my reflection in the shiny desk showing a rounder face framed by hair that spilled past my shoulders in dark, silky waves. I was a girl. A real girl. Sitting in a desk in the school reflection room, wearing a jumper dress uniform like I'd stepped out of a catalog for back-to-school essentials. The girls giggled behind their hands. "Oh my gosh, it worked!" one whispered. "She looks perfect for ballet class," another said, and they all laughed. My cheeks burned hotter than fire. I crossed my arms over my chest, trying to cover myself, but there was no covering what had just happened. I wasn't Hector anymore. At least, not on the outside. I forced myself to look up, even though I didn't want to. The worst part wasn't the silky hair brushing my shoulders, or the strange weight on my chest, or even the high, unfamiliar pitch of my own breathing. It was the girls. They were all grinning at me, their eyes darting from my jumper dress to my knees and those lacy socks to the shiny Mary Janes on my feet. And that's when it hit me like a punch, I was wearing the exact same uniform they were. The same pleats. The same ribbon. The same shoes. They didn't look embarrassed in theirs. They looked like they belonged. But me? I felt like the world's biggest joke, sitting there in clothes that screamed I'm just like them. "No!" I muttered, shaking my head. "No way!" Mom's voice was calm, but firm. "Yes, Maya." I froze. "What did you just call me?" She met my wide eyes without flinching. "Maya, that's your name now, until you learn some respect." The girls giggled again, one of them whispering, "Maya. It fits her." My stomach twisted. Her. They were calling me her. "I'm not Maya!" I snapped, my voice cracking into that new high pitch again. "I'm Hector. I'm..." But Mom shook her head slowly, cutting me off. "Not anymore, mija. Not until you've proven yourself." I sat there in silence, my face hot, the truth settling over me heavier than the jumper's pleats. My mom had done it. She'd actually gone and made me one of them. And she'd even given me a name to match. Maya. I could barely breathe. My mom's words still rang in my ears. Maya. Like it was permanent. Like I was already erased. I gripped the hem of the jumper dress, the pleats stiff under my fingers. "Okay, you made your point," I said, trying to force my voice to sound strong, but it came out shaky and way too high. "Now change me back." Mom tilted her head, calm as ever. "It doesn't work like that, mija." "Yes, it does." I blurted. "You've changed stuff before, like when Tia Rosa burned the Aros and you fixed it, or when you made the washing machine stop flooding the laundry room. Just snap your fingers or whatever and turn me back." Her eyes softened, but there was steel under them. "Hector, you mocked something you didn't understand. You belittled those girls. You thought strength and respect only belonged to boys. So until you can learn the truth for yourself, you're going to stay like this." I swallowed hard. What truth? That ballet is a sport. That it takes discipline, strength, and courage. And that girls are capable of just as much as boys. She crossed her arms. "The only way back is to prove it, to go to ballet class yourself." My jaw dropped. "Ballet? No! No way!" "Yes way," Mom said firmly. "In a leotard, tights, slippers, the full uniform. Exactly what the other girls wear." The girls behind me burst into giggles, their eyes shining with delight. "She'll look adorable," one whispered. "She'll never last through warm-ups," another said, smirking. My face burned. I wanted to shout that I wasn't she, that this wasn't me. But I couldn't ignore the way my jumper brushed my knees, the way my hair fell into my face when I looked down, the way every piece of me screamed otherwise. Mom stepped closer, her hand gentle on my shoulder. "This isn't a punishment, Maya. It's a lesson. When you've shown respect on the dance floor, I'll give you the choice to return." Her words sank into me like lead. Ballet class. Leotard. Tights. Until then, I wasn't Hector. I was Maya. And there was no way out. Chapter 3, No Way Out. I thought maybe Mom would change her mind once the principal let us go. Maybe she'd see how red my face was, how the girls couldn't stop giggling every time they looked at me in the jumper dress, and she'd undo it out of pity. Nope. Instead, she signed me out of school early and led me to the car like this was all perfectly normal, like her kid hadn't just been turned into a girl in front of half the playground jury. I folded my arms and slumped against the passenger door as she started the engine. The pleats of the jumper pressed against my thighs, itchy and unfamiliar. My new hair kept falling into my face, and I shoved it back with a growl. "Where are we even going?" I muttered. "Home," she said simply, eyes on the road. "You'll need time to get ready before class." My stomach flipped. "Class? You mean, you're actually serious about the ballet thing?" "Very serious," she said. I groaned so loud it echoed in the car. "Mom, come on! How long do I have to stay like this? A day? A week? Just tell me!" Her lips pressed into a thin line, and for a second I thought she might laugh. Instead, she glanced at me with eyes that were calm, but sharp enough to cut. "You'll be a girl until you learn your lesson," she said. I sat up straighter. "What lesson? I get it, okay? Don't make fun of ballet, don't make fun of girls, whatever. I get it. Change me back." She shook her head. "Words aren't enough, Hector, Maya. You need to live it. You'll stay this way until you truly understand what you mocked." I gaped at her. "That's insane! What if it takes forever?" Her hand stayed steady on the wheel. "Then I guess you'll have plenty of practice in those ballet slippers." The car went quiet except for the hum of the road. I slouched down in the seat, heart pounding. She couldn't really mean it. She wouldn't keep me like this forever. Would she? The drive home felt like forever, but somehow it wasn't long enough. I wanted time to figure out what to say, some magic argument that would make Mom undo this, but nothing came. When we finally pulled into our driveway, I hesitated before opening the car door. The pleats of the jumper crinkled under my hands as I sat frozen, staring at the familiar house that suddenly didn't feel like home anymore. "Go on," Mom said, stepping out calmly, as if everything were perfectly normal. I trailed after her, my Mary Janes clicking against the pavement, my hair brushing my cheeks with every step. The front door creaked open, and the smell of arroz and beans from lunch drifted out, warm and familiar. It almost made me think everything would be okay. Almost. I stomped up the stairs two at a time, desperate to throw myself on my bed and forget all of this. But when I shoved open my bedroom door, I froze. My room wasn't my room anymore. The posters of my favorite soccer players? Gone. Replaced by pastel prints of flowers and ballerinas frozen mid-spin. My navy comforter had been replaced with a pink quilt covered in lace trim. Even my game console was gone, swapped out for a stack of storybooks in a jewelry box. My throat tightened. No! 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 I yanked open my closet. All my jeans, my hoodies, my jerseys, gone. In their place hung dresses in every color, skirts lined up on neat hangers, blouses with ribbons and lace. The shoes on the rack weren't sneakers or cleats, but flats and sandals, all small and delicate. Panic shot through me. I tore open my dresser drawers, only to find them stuffed with tights, leggings, and stacks of underwear I couldn't even look at without turning red. And then I saw it. Sitting right in the center of my dresser, neatly folded, like it had been waiting for me all along, a pale pink ballet leotard. Beside it, a pair of white tights and soft ballet slippers with ribbons coiled neatly on top. I didn't even touch them. I just stood there, staring, my heart thundering in my chest. Mom's voice floated up from downstairs, calm but commanding. Better get dressed, Maya. Class starts soon. My knees went weak. There it was, the proof this wasn't just a game. This was my new reality. And there was no escape. I stared at the leotard, tights, and slippers on my dresser like they were weapons aimed straight at me. My chest tightened. I could face down a soccer field, climb the tallest monkey bars, even race across the playground without fear. But this was terrifying. I scooped up the folded bundle in my arms and marched downstairs, my Mary Janes thudding against each step. Mom was waiting in the kitchen, sipping tea like this was just another Tuesday. Mom?" My voice cracked high again. I held up the pink leotard like evidence in a crime. "I don't even know how to wear this thing. This morning, I woke up a boy, and now I've gotta deal with this." Her eyes softened, and for the first time since this whole nightmare began, she looked at me with something like pity. She set down her cup and took the bundle from my hands. "Come here, Mija," she said gently. I shuffled closer, heat prickling my cheeks. "First, the tights," she explained, kneeling down and holding them open for me. "They're like pants, but delicate. Roll them down first, then pull them up slowly so you don't tear them." I stepped in awkwardly, balancing on one foot, then the other. The fabric was snug, sliding up my legs like a second skin. By the time they reached my waist, I felt completely exposed, my legs pale and smooth and nothing like they used to be. "Good," Mom said softly. "Now the leotard. Step in through the neck hole, feet first." "That's backwards," I muttered. "Trust me." I sighed and did as she said, wriggling my feet through the stretchy fabric, pulling it up over my legs and hips. It clung to me tighter than any shirt I'd ever worn, the straps sliding onto my shoulders, leaving my arms bare. "See?" she said, smoothing a wrinkle on my side. "Perfect." I didn't feel perfect. I felt ridiculous. Last were the ballet slippers. She knelt to slip them onto my feet, adjusting the ribbons just so. They were soft, lighter than sneakers, but every step made me feel like I was playing dress up in someone else's skin. "There," Mom said, standing. "Now you look ready." I swallowed hard, clutching my arms across my chest. When I finally dragged myself back upstairs, I caught sight of the mirror by my dresser. And I froze. A girl stood there, staring back at me. Pink leotard, white tights, ballet slippers. Her arms tucked behind her back, shoulders tense, lips pressed in a nervous frown. Her hair brushed just past her chin, framing a face that looked too small, too delicate to ever belong to Hector Rivera. But it was me. I leaned closer, but no matter how I tilted my head, the girl in the mirror copied me exactly. I was Maya. And there was no hiding it. Chapter 4, Out the Door. I was still standing in front of the mirror, trying to figure out if there was any trace of Hector left in the reflection, when Mom's voice floated up from downstairs. "Maya! Time to go!" My stomach lurched. "Go! Out there! In this!" I glanced down at myself again, the pale pink leotard clinging tight, the white tights showing every line of my legs, the soft slippers tied neatly with their little bows. My bare arms looked too small, too girly, and my hair brushed against my cheek like it was reminding me who I was supposed to be now. I froze. The thought hit me like a punch, I'd have to walk out of the house like this. Out the door. Into the world. People would see me. Not Hector, not the kid who played soccer and ran the fastest laps at recess. They'd see her. A girl in ballet clothes, legs wrapped in tights for everyone to stare at. My knees locked, my breath caught in my chest. I can't go outside like this. "Maya!" Mom called again, firmer this time. "Don't make me come up there!" I squeezed my eyes shut. My hands curled into fists at my sides, but the fabric stretched under my knuckles, reminding me how trapped I really was. If I stayed in here, Mom would just drag me out anyway. If I went downstairs on my own, at least I'd keep a little dignity. With a shaky breath, I turned from the mirror and forced my legs to move. Each step was silent on the floor, my ballet slippers making no sound at all. Somehow that silence made it worse. Like I wasn't even real anymore. The hallway seemed longer than ever as I made my way to the stairs. Down there, Mom was waiting. And beyond her, the ballet studio. The world. And no matter how much I wanted to hide, there was no turning back. The car door felt heavier than usual as I pulled it open and slid into the seat. The pink leotard stretched when I sat down, the tights pressing against my legs like a reminder that there was no escape. I buckled the seatbelt slowly, hoping maybe the longer I dragged things out, the less real it would all feel. Mom started the engine without a word. She looked calm, like we were just heading to the grocery store. But I could barely breathe. I pressed my knees together tight, wishing the tights weren't so obvious. Every time I glanced down, I saw smooth legs that didn't belong to Hector. The ballet slippers dangled off my feet, soft and delicate, not at all like the sneakers I should have been wearing. "Mom?" I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, Mija?" she said, eyes on the road. My chest tightened at that word again, Mija. Like I wasn't even her son anymore. Do we have to? I mean, really? What if someone from school sees me like this? What if the guys— I cut myself off before the thought could finish. The guys on the soccer team would never let me live this down. Mom glanced at me, her expression soft but firm. "This isn't about what other people see, Maya. It's about what you learn." I groaned, slumping against the seat. "But I look like a total joke." She shook her head. "You look like a ballerina. And ballerinas are some of the strongest athletes in the world. You'll see." The car hummed along the road. I stared out the window, watching houses and trees pass by, but all I could see in my head was me walking into a studio full of girls in outfits just like mine. And me being the only one who knew I wasn't supposed to be one of them. I hugged my arms across my chest, cheeks burning. What if I tripped? What if I couldn't keep up? What if I looked ridiculous and everyone laughed? The closer we got, the heavier the thoughts grew. My stomach twisted with every turn, until finally, Mom slowed the car in front of a building with a big sign painted in looping letters, Rivera Dance Studio. She parked, turned off the engine, and gave me a small smile. "Ready?" My throat went dry. "Ready?" Not even close. Mom eased the car into a spot right in front of the studio. I leaned forward just enough to peek through the windshield, and my heart nearly stopped. They were there. The same girls I had teased on the playground just hours ago stood outside the studio, laughing and talking like nothing had happened. Except now they weren't in their school clothes. They were dressed for ballet, pink leotards hugging their shoulders, white tights stretched down to their slippers. Exactly like me. I shrank down in my seat so fast my seatbelt dug into my neck. Maybe if I stayed low enough, they wouldn't see me. Maybe we could just drive away and pretend this whole nightmare never happened. "Mom!" I hissed, tugging at her sleeve. "They're right there! The girls from school! The ones who asked you to!" I stopped myself, cheeks burning. She looked out calmly. "So they are? Good! Now you'll get the chance to face them properly." I groaned and slid lower until my chin touched my chest. I couldn't do this. Not with them watching. Not dressed like this. I dared one more glance out the window. It wasn't just the girls I recognized. There were others, too, different ages, but all wearing the same uniform. Pink leotards, white tights, neat slippers. Every single one of them looked comfortable, like this was the most normal thing in the world. And then there was me. I pressed my hands against my legs, but it didn't matter. Every time I looked down, I saw the same tights and slippers they had on. I looked just like them, no one outside would ever guess I wasn't one of them. That thought should have made me feel safer. But instead, it made me feel smaller. Mom unbuckled her seatbelt and gave me that look, the one that meant I had about 3 seconds before she marched around to drag me out herself. "Maya," she said gently but firmly, "it's time." My stomach flipped. My hands gripped the seat. I wanted to vanish, to melt into the floorboards. But outside, The girls kept laughing, their voices carrying in the warm afternoon air. And I knew there was no way out. My hands were glued to the seatbelt, knuckles white. My heart hammered so loud I was sure the girls outside could hear it through the glass. Mom reached over and unclicked my buckle with one snap. "Time to go, Maya!" Mom, wait! Can't we do this later? Tomorrow? Next week?" My words tumbled out in a rush, desperate. Her hand rested on my shoulder, steady, unshakable. "Respect doesn't wait, Mija. Neither does your lesson." Before I could answer, she opened her own door. The sound made me flinch. Then mine popped open too, and warm air flooded in. I hunched down, my eyes darting toward the sidewalk. The girls were still there. Still laughing, still chatting in their pink leotards and white tights like this was their world and they owned it. And I was dressed just like them. I swallowed hard. Every nerve in me screamed to stay put, to lock the door, to vanish. But Mom leaned in one last time, her voice low and firm. "You'll thank me one day, Maya." And then she shut my door, circled back around, slid into the driver's seat, and started the engine. "Mom?" I gasped, panic spiking. She didn't even look back. With a smooth turn of the wheel, she pulled away from the curb, leaving me standing there on the sidewalk in my ballet clothes, the other girls only a few feet away. The car disappeared down the street. I was stranded. Alone. With them. My classmates. The girls I'd picked on. And they'd seen everything? Chapter 5, No Choice. The studio doors loomed closer with every step I took, my ballet slippers making soft, whispery sounds against the concrete. My stomach twisted so hard it felt like I'd swallowed a knot. I kept my head down, eyes on the sidewalk. Maybe if I didn't make eye contact, they wouldn't notice me. Maybe. Wait a second! The voice snapped my head up. One of the girls I'd teased earlier stood at the edge of the group, her arms folded. Her eyes swept me up and down, and a slow grin spread across her face. "I can't believe it," she said. "You actually came!" My throat went dry. "Yeah, well..." I shifted my weight, tugging at the leg holes of my leotard even though it didn't move. "Don't get the wrong idea! I don't want to be here!" She raised an eyebrow. "Honestly? I half expected you to chicken out. Thought you'd hide at home instead of showing up dressed like..." Her smirk widened. "Like that?" Heat rushed to my cheeks. I crossed my arms over my chest, wishing I could disappear into the pavement. I didn't have a choice, okay? My mom's making me do this. Another voice chimed in, another one of the girls from recess, her ponytail bouncing as she tilted her head. "Well, for someone who's being forced, you look pretty good." My eyes snapped to hers. "What?" She giggled. "You're kind of cute as a girl, Hector. Maybe you should stay this way." The group of girls burst into laughter, their voices echoing off the studio windows. My face burned hotter than ever. "I'm not staying like this!" I blurted. I just have to get through this stupid class, then I'll be back to normal. You'll see." But even as I said it, my reflection in the glass door stared back at me, pink leotard, white tights, ballet slippers. A girl. And the way they were looking at me. It didn't feel like a joke to them. It felt like I really did belong here. Which was the worst part of all. The girls' laughter still rang in my ears as one of them pulled the studio door open. The faint sound of piano music floated out, warm and steady. My heart thudded faster. "Come on, Maya," one of the girls teased, motioning me in. I hesitated only a second before stepping inside. The air was different here, cleaner, sharper, with the faint smell of wood polish and chalk. The floor gleamed under bright lights, and one wall was covered in mirrors from floor to ceiling. My reflection followed me with every step, reminding me again and again that I wasn't Hector anymore. At the front of the room stood a woman in a fitted black leotard and flowing skirt. She looked tall, elegant, every movement sharp and graceful even when she was just writing something on a clipboard. Her eyes lifted when she saw me. "Ah, you must be our new student." Her smile was polite but unreadable. "Welcome. My name is Miss Alvarez." I swallowed. "Oh. Hi." My voice cracked higher than I meant, and I quickly stared at the floor. "Don't be shy," she said kindly. "Come find a spot at the bar." The other girls had already lined up, each one resting a hand lightly on the wooden railing that stretched along the mirrored wall. Their pink leotards and white tights matched mine perfectly. I felt like an imposter just walking over to stand between them. "Feet in first position," Miss Alvarez instructed, clapping her hands once. I froze. "Feet in what?" The girls slid their heels together, toes pointed out in opposite directions. I tried to copy them, but my tights made my legs slip, and my feet wouldn't turn out as far. My knees wobbled, and I nearly tipped sideways. Snickers bubbled up from the line. "Quiet," Miss Alvarez snapped gently, and the room stilled. "Ballet is about discipline, not mockery. Everyone struggles in the beginning." Her eyes flicked to me, softening for just a moment. "Even the strongest athletes must learn the basics." I clenched my teeth and tried again, forcing my heels tighter together. The piano music started, steady and calm, and Miss Alvarez led the group through pliés, bending and straightening their legs like it was easy. I bent my knees too fast, my balance wobbling again. The leotard stretched tight across my shoulders, the tights pulling against my legs in ways I wasn't used to. Every move felt clumsy. But every time I glanced to the side, I saw the girls doing it with perfect ease, their reflections straight-backed and graceful. And behind them, in the same mirror, I saw myself, awkward, red-faced, but dressed just like them. And no matter how much I hated it, I couldn't escape the truth. I was one of them now. By the time Miss Alvarez clapped her hands for a short break, my legs felt like rubber. My calves ached, my back was stiff, and I had no idea how the other girls weren't gasping for air the way I was. I shuffled over to the water fountain, filling one of the little paper cups until it nearly overflowed. The cool water slid down my throat, but it didn't wash away the knot in my stomach. I found an empty spot on the bench against the wall and dropped onto it, letting my shoulders sag. The leotard clung tight and sticky with sweat, the tights pulling at my knees every time I shifted. I wanted to disappear. That's when someone sat down beside me. I glanced over and saw a girl I didn't recognize. She was maybe my age, with curly hair pulled back in a bun, her pink leotard and white tights just like everyone else's. She took a sip from her own cup before leaning closer with a small smile. "My mom makes me do this too," she whispered, rolling her eyes. "She says ballet will teach me discipline, but really I think she just likes watching the recitals." I froze. My mouth opened before I could stop it. The truth burned on the tip of my tongue. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm a boy. My mom turned me into this as punishment. By tomorrow, I'll be back to normal. But the words stuck. If I said it, she'd laugh, or call me crazy, or worse, tell everyone. So instead, I forced a weak smile. "Yeah. Moms are difficult like that, aren't they?" She giggled, bumping her shoulder lightly against mine. "The worst! But at least we're stuck here together." Together? The word made my chest tighten. I wasn't supposed to be together with these girls. I wasn't supposed to belong. But sitting there, in the same leotard, same tights, same tired slump after class. It almost felt like I did. Which scared me more than anything. The break ended too soon. Miss Alvarez clapped her hands, her voice carrying across the room. "Back to the bar, everyone! Let's work on turns!" The girls groaned softly, but they all stood, stretching their arms like they'd done this 1,000 times. I dragged myself up from the bench, my new friend giving me a quick smile before joining the line. I shuffled back to my spot, my slippers whispering against the polished floor. My reflection in the mirror was waiting for me, flushed cheeks, loose strands of hair clinging to my forehead, leotard stretched tight with every shaky breath. "First position," Miss Alvarez said, and the piano music began again. We started slow. Bend, stretch, arms up, arms down. My body still ached, but at least I wasn't wobbling as much this time. I almost let myself breathe. Then Miss Alvarez clapped sharply. "Now, a pirouette! Everyone, to the center!" My stomach dropped. The girls moved away from the bar, spreading out across the open floor. I copied them, dread filling my chest. "Spot with your eyes," Miss Alvarez instructed. "Turn with control." The first girl spun gracefully, one foot tucked neatly against her knee, landing softly like it was nothing. The next did the same, then another, each one looking strong and precise. Then it was my turn. I swallowed hard, set my feet, and pushed off. For half a second, I thought I might actually pull it off, but then my tights twisted against my knee, my arms flailed too wide, and I spun out of control. My slipper slid, and I went down on one knee with a loud smack against the floor. The room went quiet. Heat surged into my face, I scrambled up, trying to act like it wasn't a big deal, but I could hear the muffled giggles behind me. Miss Alvarez's voice cut through the noise. "Enough! Ballet is not about perfection on the first try. It is about persistence. Again!" Her eyes met mine in the mirror, steady and unreadable. "Especially you, Maya." I clenched my jaw, fighting the urge to shout that I wasn't Maya, that I wasn't even supposed to be here. Instead, I nodded stiffly, cheeks burning, and got back into position. As the music started again, I tried to steady my balance. But all I could feel was the sting of every giggle, every pair of eyes watching me stumble in clothes that weren't mine. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe I really wouldn't last through this class. The music started again, and I forced myself into position. My muscles burned, my tights felt too tight, and every inch of me wanted to give up. But Miss Alvarez's eyes on me were unshakable. So I tried. Again. And again. Each spin wobbled, each landing sloppy, but I stayed on my feet. My arms flapped, my hair got in my eyes, but I didn't crash to the floor this time. The girls beside me turned sharper, smoother, almost effortless, but at least I wasn't collapsing. The lesson dragged on. Every exercise felt harder than the last, pliés, tendus, more turns, little jumps that made my thighs scream. My leotard clung with sweat, my slippers squeaked against the polished wood, and I swore my legs might actually give out. But then Miss Alvarez clapped her hands. "That's enough for today." The piano stopped. A wave of relief crashed through me, almost strong enough to knock me over. I bent forward, hands on my knees, gasping for breath. My chest rose and fell under the pink leotard, my tights itched, my feet ached, but I was still standing. Around me, the other girls gathered their things, chattering as if this had just been a warm-up, not torture. I caught a few glances in my direction, smirks and whispers, but no one said anything loud enough for me to answer. I slumped down on the bench again, grabbing another paper cup of water. The coolness on my tongue felt like heaven. Somehow, I'd made it. I didn't belong here. I didn't want to belong here. But I'd survived my first ballet class without quitting, without running, without mom having to drag me. And as much as I hated it, a tiny thought whispered at the back of my mind. If I could get through today, maybe I could get through tomorrow. I sat slumped on the bench, clutching my water cup like it was the only thing keeping me alive. My legs trembled, my back ached, and I couldn't remember the last time I'd been this tired. That's when someone's shadow fell across me. I looked up, and there she was, the girl who had sat with me during the break, her bun a little loose now, cheeks pink from exertion. She was smiling, though, like the class hadn't worn her out at all. "So," she said, tilting her head, "did you enjoy your first ballet class?" I blinked. Enjoy? My tights were sticking to me, my arms felt like noodles, and my knees still burned from falling. The only thing I enjoyed was that it was finally over. But I didn't say that. "Oh! Yeah, I lied, my voice weak." She giggled softly. "You'll get used to it. I didn't think I would at first either. But it grows on you." I nodded stiffly, not trusting myself to say more. Inside, my thoughts were a jumble. This is it. My first and last class. Once Mom's done teaching her lesson, I'll be back to normal tomorrow." She reached out a hand, offering it like we were sealing some kind of deal. "I'm Isabella, by the way." I stared at her hand for a second, then slowly shook it. Her grip was warm, steady. "Maya, right?" she asked. The name hit me like a jab to the ribs. I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, Maya." Her smile widened. "Well, nice to meet you, Maya." And then she skipped off to grab her bag, leaving me alone again on the bench. I stared into my water cup, cheeks hot, the sound of giggling and chatter filling the room. Maya. For now, at least. That's who I was. I sat on the bench, still catching my breath, when Isabella skipped off with a cheerful wave. For a second, I thought maybe I was safe, that I could just sit there in peace until Mom came to get me. No such luck. A cluster of familiar voices drifted closer, and I looked up to see the girls I'd teased on the playground earlier. They stood in front of me, arms folded, identical smirks on their faces. "So," one of them said, cocking her head, "what do you think now? Ballet still not a sport?" I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Another girl leaned closer, grinning. "We saw you, you know. Sweating. Struggling. Almost falling over half the time." She was red as a tomato. The third giggled. My cheeks flamed hotter than they already were. I wanted to shout that I wasn't she, that this wasn't fair, that I wasn't supposed to be here at all. But my reflection in the mirror behind them betrayed me, a girl in pink and white, just like them, hair plastered to her forehead with sweat. "Looks a lot harder than you thought, huh?" the first girl pressed. I clenched my fists in my lap, muttering under my breath. "Yeah! Harder than I thought!" They all laughed together, satisfied, before heading toward the cubbies to grab their bags. I slumped lower on the bench, wishing I could melt straight into the floor. For the first time, I had nothing left to argue. Chapter 6, The Ride Home. When I finally pushed open the studio door, the late afternoon air hit my face like a wave of freedom. My legs wobbled, my arms ached, and every step in the ballet slippers made me feel more and more like I was walking around in someone else's skin. Then I saw the car. Mom sat in the driver's seat, window rolled down, a calm smile on her face like she'd just been waiting for me to step out of a dentist appointment. She lifted her hand in a little wave. I trudged across the parking lot, the pleats of my ballet bag bouncing against my hip with every step. Sliding into the passenger seat, I collapsed against the door and let out a long, heavy groan. "Well?" Mom asked, turning the key. "How was your first ballet class?" I glared at her, too tired to come up with a clever answer. "Awful." Her smile didn't fade. "Awful because it was hard?" "Yes!" I snapped, sitting up straighter. "It was impossible. My legs feel like spaghetti, my feet hurt, and everyone was staring at me the whole time. Happy now?" She chuckled softly, eyes on the road as she pulled out of the lot. "Not happy. But maybe a little proud. You made it through, didn't you?" I slumped again, arms crossed. "Barely." "And?" she pressed. "Do you still think ballet isn't a sport?" The question twisted in my chest. I wanted to say yes, to stick to my guns. But all I could see was the mirror in the studio, my red face, my clumsy turns, the girls laughing while I struggled to keep up. I muttered, "It's harder than I thought." Mom's smile softened. "That's the beginning of a lesson, Maya." I groaned, covering my face with my hands. "Stop calling me that." But she didn't stop. She just kept driving, the silence in the car filled with everything I didn't want to admit. Dinner smelled like roasted chicken and spices when we walked into the house, the kitchen already warm and alive with clattering pans. Mom slipped off her jacket and got straight to work, humming softly like today had been completely ordinary. "Go upstairs and change, mija," she said, not even glancing at me. "There's something on your bed." Finally! Relief rushed through me. I couldn't wait to peel off the sticky leotard and tights. I bolted upstairs, tugging at the neckline as I went, already imagining sliding back into a hoodie and sweatpants. But when I opened my bedroom door, my stomach dropped. Laid neatly across my bedspread was not a hoodie. Not jeans. Not anything I'd ever worn in my life. It was a dress. Soft pink cotton, short-sleeved, with a ribbon tied neatly at the waist. Beside it sat a pair of shiny pink flats, their bows glinting under the light. "No way," I muttered. I stomped downstairs, leotard still clinging to me. "Mom! You left a dress on my bed!" She didn't even look up from chopping vegetables. "That's right! You'll wear it for dinner!" My jaw dropped. "What? No! I'm not wearing a dress around the house! It was bad enough at ballet, but this..." Her knife hit the cutting board with a sharp thunk. She looked up, her eyes steady. "You'll put it on, Maya!" I froze. The firmness in her voice left no room for argument. Groaning, I dragged myself back upstairs. The leotard peeled off with a sticky stretch, the tights rolling down my legs until they puddled at my ankles. I kicked them away, staring at the pink dress like it was mocking me. With a deep breath, I slipped it over my head. The fabric slid down, light and soft, hugging my shoulders and brushing against my knees. The ribbon cinched at my waist, making the skirt flare slightly when I moved. I turned to the flats next. My feet slid easily inside, the shiny material snug around my toes. The little bow sat perfectly on top, neat and girlish, nothing like the sneakers I used to wear. I stood in front of the mirror again, my reflection almost unrecognizable. No leotard. No tights. Just a girl in a pink dress, shiny flats, and tired eyes. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just about one ballet class. This was going to be my life until Mom decided I'd learned my lesson. The mirror didn't lie. I tugged at the skirt, tried smoothing the ribbon, even kicked my feet against the rug, hoping the flats would feel less alien. Nothing worked. The girl staring back at me wasn't Hector in disguise. She was just a girl. "Maya!" Mom's voice floated up the stairs. "Dinner's ready!" My stomach twisted. I wanted to shout back that I wasn't hungry, but my legs moved anyway, carrying me out of the room and down the steps. Each tap of the flats against the wood made my ears burn hotter. When I reached the dining room, Mom was already setting down the chicken and rice, steam rising from the plates. She looked up, and her eyes softened just a little. "There you are," she said, as if nothing was strange at all. "Sit down, mija!" I hesitated, fidgeting with the hem of the dress. "Mom, this is ridiculous! Why do I have to wear this?" She met my eyes, steady and calm. "Because, Hector! You need to understand! Respect isn't just something you say with words. It's something you feel in your bones. The only way you learn is to live this life until it changes you." My throat tightened. But I don't want to be a girl." She placed the serving spoon down gently. "And the girls you teased didn't want to be disrespected. You're learning what it means to be on the other side." I sank into my chair, the dress puffing slightly around my legs as I sat. The flats pinched my toes under the table, but I kept quiet. Mom served me a plate like everything was normal, like we hadn't just flipped my whole world upside down. For the rest of dinner, I barely spoke. The food was good, it always was, but it felt strange eating it while dressed like this, my reflection faintly visible in the dark window behind Mom. Every bite reminded me, this wasn't just for class. This was home, too. This was everywhere. And it wasn't ending anytime soon. Dinner passed slowly, every bite of chicken and rice weighed down by the pink dress brushing against my knees. I barely spoke, just poked at my food while Mom ate calmly, like nothing at all was unusual. When we were finished, she slid her plate toward me. "Take these to the kitchen, please." I frowned, but stacked the plates anyway. The flats clicked softly on the floor as I carried them to the sink, rinsed them off, and set them aside. By the time I came back, Mom was still seated at the table, hands folded, waiting. "Sit," she said, nodding to the chair across from her. I sat, fidgeting with the hem of my dress again. "Well? she asked gently. What did you learn today? I shifted in my seat, staring at the table. I learned that ballet is harder than I thought. My voice cracked. And being a girl is weird. Her lips twitched, like she almost smiled, but her eyes stayed serious. That's a start. But I think your punishment needs to continue. I stared at her, my stomach dropping. Continue? Mom, no. I already went to one class. I learned my lesson. She shook her head slowly. Your instructor said you showed real potential. She thought you did very well for your first time. I blinked. What? She wants you back. And I agree. You'll keep going, Maya. You'll learn more about discipline, and more about empathy, too. My chest tightened. But what about school? What if someone… Her calm gaze cut through my words. All of your boys' uniforms have already been changed. You'll go in a jumper dress, like the other girls. It won't be a problem. My jaw dropped. You turned all my clothes into girl clothes? She nodded once. Yes. You'll wear them until you've learned what you need to. I slumped back in my chair, the pink dress crinkling beneath me. The thought of walking into school tomorrow in a jumper dress made my insides churn. There was no way out. I sat there in shock, my mind racing with images of walking through the schoolyard in a jumper dress while everyone stared and laughed. My stomach churned so badly I thought I might be sick. Mom pushed her chair back and stood. That's enough talking for tonight. Get up and go upstairs. Change into your pajamas and get ready for bed. I blinked. Now? Yes, now, she said firmly. Tomorrow will be another big day, and you'll need your rest. I hesitated, tugging at the skirt of the pink dress. Do I even still have pajamas? Her eyes softened, but her voice stayed calm. Yes. They're in your dresser. Go on. I dragged myself up from the chair, my flats tapping against the wood floor. Climbing the stairs felt heavier with every step. I already knew what I'd find, and sure enough, when I opened my dresser drawer, every pair of my old basketball shorts and oversized t-shirts had been replaced. Instead, neatly folded piles of pastel pajama sets greeted me. Soft cotton tops with lace trim, matching shorts or pants, all in shades of pink, lavender, and sky blue. I groaned, pulling out the least frilly one I could find, a simple baby blue set with short sleeves and elastic waist pants. The pink dress slipped off over my head, landing in a crumpled heap on the floor. I slid the pajama top on, the fabric featherlight against my skin, then tugged the pants up over my hips. They fit snug, hugging my legs in a way my old loose shorts never had. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, soft blue pajamas, hair falling against my cheeks, the same round face from earlier. A girl. Tired, frustrated, but undeniably a girl. I sighed, flopping onto my bed. The quilt rustled under me, its lacy trim brushing my arms. Tomorrow, I'd have to face school like this. I pulled the blanket up to my chin and squeezed my eyes shut, wishing I could just wake up and find it all had been a dream. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. Chapter 7 No Way Back. The morning sun slipped through my curtains, painting stripes across my bedspread. For one second, as I blinked awake, I thought maybe it had all been a nightmare. That if I just rolled over, stretched, and yawned like any other day, I'd be me again. But then I sat up. My hair swung forward into my face, brushing my cheeks in soft waves. My pajama top clung lightly to my chest in a way no t-shirt ever had. And when I kicked off the blanket, I saw the baby blue pajama pants hugging legs that were still smooth and small. My stomach dropped. I was still a girl. I scrambled out of bed and went straight to my closet, praying I'd see my old uniforms waiting for me, the button-up shirts, the pressed slacks, the stiff ties. But the sight that met me stopped me cold. Row after row of jumper dresses hung neatly from the hangers, each one identical to the one I'd seen on the girls at school, navy blue, pleated skirt, white blouse built in underneath, and a ribbon tie at the collar. Even my shoes had changed. Where my sneakers should have been, shiny Mary Janes and flats lined the rack. I tugged open my dresser drawers. More tights! More socks with lace trim! Nothing even close to the shorts and t-shirts I used to throw on without thinking. My knees went weak. There was no way out of it. Mom had meant what she said. I grabbed one of the uniforms off the hanger, the fabric crisp under my fingers. The blouse felt tighter as I pulled it over my head, the pleated skirt falling around my thighs with a swish that made me wince. I pulled the ribbon at the collar into a neat bow, hating how natural it looked once it was tied. Finally, I slid my feet into the white knee socks and buckled the shiny black Mary Janes. They clicked against the floor as I stood in front of the mirror. A girl stared back at me. Not a ballerina this time, but a schoolgirl, dressed just like any other girl in my class. Except she wasn't supposed to be one of them. She was supposed to be me. Hector. But she wasn't. Not today. The mirror felt like it was mocking me, but standing there any longer wouldn't change anything. My stomach growled, reminding me that skipping breakfast wasn't going to make this day disappear. Each click of my Mary Janes echoed down the stairs as I descended. The ribbon at my collar bounced slightly, and the pleats of the jumper swished against my legs. I tried to keep my eyes on the floor, but it didn't help. I felt the clothes on me with every step. The smell of eggs and toast drifted from the kitchen. Mom was already at the table, sipping her coffee, perfectly calm like this was the most normal morning in the world. She glanced up when she saw me, her lips curving into a small smile. "Good morning, Maya," she said warmly. I stiffened. "Don't call me that," I muttered, sliding into the chair opposite her. The skirt puffed slightly as I sat, brushing against my thighs in a way I couldn't ignore. She didn't argue. She just set a plate of scrambled eggs and toast in front of me, as if everything were fine. I picked up my fork but couldn't bring myself to eat right away. "Mom! Do I really have to go to school like this?" I asked quietly. She set down her cup. "Yes, mija. You'll go, and you'll learn. Just like you did in ballet." I gripped the fork so tight my knuckles turned white. My heart hammered. School wasn't like ballet class, it wasn't strangers. It was everyone I knew. Everyone who used to know me as Hector. Mom reached across the table and touched my hand gently. "You'll understand in time." I pulled back, staring at my plate, appetite gone. The sound of the clock ticking on the wall filled the silence. And then Mom spoke again, calm and certain. "It's almost time to go." My chest tightened. The words hung heavy in the air. In less than an hour, I'd be walking through the school gates, not as Hector, but as Maya. Chapter 8, 4 months later. The backstage chair creaked softly as I shifted, the tool of my to-do brushing against my legs like a cloud. The mirror in front of me glowed under the dressing lights, but the face staring back felt like a stranger. 4 months ago, I would have sworn I'd never survive a single ballet class. 4 months ago, I would have said I'd never wear tights again, never sit in a pink leotard, never call myself anything but Hector. But now my hair was pulled into a neat bun at the back of my head, slicked and pinned with precision. My cheeks already held a faint blush, and the makeup artist leaned close, dabbing glittering powder at the corners of my eyes. I blinked, watching the sparkles catch the light. My reflection shimmered back, bright-eyed, delicate, almost radiant. I barely recognized myself as Hector anymore. No broad shoulders. No soccer uniform. No cocky grin. Just Maya. A ballerina about to step onto the stage. The hum of voices and footsteps filled the backstage air, girls chatting nervously, the faint notes of the orchestra tuning up. My hands rested on my tutu, fingers pressing into the stiff layers of tulle. It still felt strange, but less like a costume now and more like me. I swallowed hard, my chest tightening. In a few minutes, I'd be dancing in the Nutcracker. A performance I'd been rehearsing for every day after school for the past month and a half. The thought should have scared me. But instead, it filled me with something else. Something steady. Excitement. The makeup artist leaned back, smiling. "Perfect! You're ready, Maya!" I nodded slowly, my reflection shimmering back at me with glitter, a tutu, and a name that felt more natural than I wanted to admit. The stage waited. And so did the world.